Good morning, everyone. It's Joker, and today we are back with another slime video and the final normal battle video for the day end of this Jubilee, normal battle 3. This one is, if you have Velzard, it's actually fairly easy. So Velzard is going to get some good use in normal battles for the rest of time, pretty much, until she gets replaced. But it is wanting a water nuker, and we are desperately in need of new water nuking characters. So good luck with that, just right off the bat. Before we jump in, disclaimers. Number one, your results are really going to vary because water is kind of in a not great spot. You either have a good water unit or you have an old water unit, and that's going to be a huge factor in what you're going to do here. So results are going to vary. Try your best. Do what you can. Don't spend a lot of time on it. And don't bang your head against a wall. Just get a score and move on. Disclaimer number 2 is these are the protection gauge characters, and these are the skill point characters. I use both of them, I think. And then disclaimer number 3 is don't forget to go into your town and optimize your water buildings. So Frey or Shinsha or whoever can do as much damage as possible. But looking at the stage, it is a single target fight. They do want you to do it in, I think, 3 turns, actually, because I think if you go to turn 4, he stuns you or something. So it's not great. 600k HP, seals pierce resistance, which is fine. Pierce rate, pierce power, there's the stun right there. And the starting hand is built for oranges, which you can definitely work around if you have Blanc. But let's go ahead and jump in. Alright, the max score team for normal battle 3, I'm sorry in advance. This is not a very viable team for most people. I highly doubt you're going to have Sparkle Frey and Masayuki and Violet and Blanc and Velzard and Diablo. Like, these are some very recent, mostly top tier units. So this is quite out of reach for people, but if you maybe have some of them, you can try and make a makeshift team. But Frey is water. She does have that massive buff skill that wasn't useful on her own team, but is useful here. And then we've got Masayuki, who can give us the extra skill points when we use them and can reduce the costs, and it will give Frey the extra damage against fire, so we can nuke Ifrit harder. And then Violet, Blanc, Diablo. 3 Primal Demons means that we can get a full hand of Rainbows, and then Velzard for the stun. That's important, because we're just going to stun Ifrit into the ground, so he can never do anything to us to begin with. So, turn 1, we have 42 skill points. We're starting with quite a bit of skill points, and that's going to be useful for the next turn, because turn 1 we have to freeze him. We have to stun him. There's no way around that, which means we can't orb change. So we're going to send 4 oranges here. We've brought all the Primal Demons up front. That way we can get a full hand of Rainbows next turn. And we just need to make sure that we get a decent amount of orbs for one of them. It doesn't matter who. But let's use the Rainbow Orbs. Let's use the green buff. Let's use the Blanc buff. And then we can bring Frey in for Violet since she has 4. And then we can bring in Velzard. And then we can stun again. Probably actually didn't need to use Diablo's buff because we're already getting the buff from Blanc, but it was already there, so we used it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. He's still stunned, which means he can't hit us. He can't even counter us, which is great. And now we have the EX ult for Frey, and we have 138 points with a double helping of Masayuki, which means we actually have 338 plus another 30 points from Blanc, because Masayuki has reset that skill back down 10 points, so we actually get a bit more. But we have a lot of points. So we can use the Frey buff, we can use the Blanc buff, we can use the so we've reset Frey back down, so it's actually not Frey but Blanc, so it's actually 0 points. And then we can use the Velzard buff, Aegis. And we still have one more Masayuki, which means that we can use the last 90-point skill from Diablo. So it's very funny to do this. It's not going to be highly realistic for people, unfortunately, because you're probably either not going to have Masayuki or not going to have Frey. If you don't have Frey, I mean, you could bring a different water nuking character, and you might still be able to do the damage cap. I'm not sure. He has 486k, but I'm fairly certain that Frey would murder him, so we're just going to send the ult, and she does 6.6 million damage. So maybe, you have 1.6 million to play with, essentially. So maybe you do bring a slightly different buffing character or a different water character, and you can nuke. But there is the max score team. Shout out to TMFM, one of the sweats, because I just borrowed this team from him, because I couldn't think of anything else that wasn't like a sad alternate team to actually get this done. So thank you, TM. But yeah, very much out of reach for most players, unfortunately. Alright, a bit more realistic-ish team would be the Warriors Mind team with Shuna, Blanc, Violet, and Gobwa, plus Velzard for the stun again. But then we're going to nuke with Fantasy Milim, because she is a physical character, which means that she can benefit off of the physical debuff from Shuna, and we can get everything on this team. The only thing is that we're not going to be critting, which half of Milim's attack buff is crit damage. But what I've found is if I took out Gobwa for like the masked hero and gave her the crit, we actually do less damage. So we're just not going to worry about crit. If you happen to naturally hit it, then great, your damage is going to be good. But with this team setup, you don't need the crit, because we're going to be doing so many other things here. So turn 1, again, we're going to stun. We are not using skill point characters now, so it is just 25 points right there and nothing else. And then we'll bring Milim in. Her trait plus her support trait should get... Well, no. The support trait plus the other traits should get us a protection gauge on turn 2 with Shuna. And... no, not quite, actually. Okay. Interesting. Let's stun again. Boom. And then we can either send the 4 Milims or do something else. But we kind of want the ult here, so it'd be a lot better. Maybe I think I'm running alt gauge traits underneath Milim, because her trait is alt gauge. I don't know what her protection character is, or her support character is. But let's use the rainbows now, so we can at least get a full hand here, and that is actually enough to get us the EX ult, plus a double Shuna. So we did have to play around with that, had to use Blanc's skill to give us the points and the gauge increase, but it was actually enough. So no stun, or no hit because he's stunned. Milim is pretty much ready to go. We just don't have enough points for me to be comfortable nuking right now, so we're going to use her attack buff, and then, or we're going to use the control stacks, and then we're going to stun. And then Milim's going to go away, and we're going to nuke on turn 4 instead. So I at least wanted to get something activated for her. And now we have 23 skill points, like there's not much to do anything. We can use the debuff with Gobwa, and those will be active on the next turn, which will really help our damage out, because they're going to be enhanced by the control and the dread stack. And we're going to use Shuna twice, because I want the 4 rainbows for maximum skill point gain and protection gauge increase. So we get 132, which means that we're actually going to have 162, plus the Blanc skill. And that will be enough to guarantee us the kill. So, let's go ahead and buff and debuff, use the Blanc skill to give us the extra 20 points, and that should put us right around the range where we have access to the debuff, or the Pierce skill from Gobwa. So let's take Blanc out, bring in Milim, and then we have exactly enough points, pretty much, to use the Milim attack buff at least, and then the Pierce and the Pierce resistance down. It's not capped out. We could have done a bit more because we had double stack of Shuna, but Milim does 4.9 million, and since we've done damage to Ifrit along the way, that puts us just barely over 5 million. And if we had used the extra Shuna debuffs, then we would have done a bit more than that, and we would have been a little bit more comfortable over 5. But the only thing that we lost points on is the turn bonus. We lost 2,500 points, which is not a super huge deal for most people. Didn't take any damage because he was stunned the entire time. We did the damage cap, so that's the most important thing. But there is a pretty solid, but still pretty whaley, alternate team with a different nuking character than stupid fucking Sparkle Frey. Alright, the next team, we're going to get kind of sad, okay? I'm just going to put that out there. We're going to use the Wielder of Magic team, because that's kind of what the stage is built for. Oranges, water nuking character. We've got Milim, we've got Shinsha, who is water and single target. And then we're going to bring Blanc and Gobwa and Velzard, again, to stun and buff. But we're also going to bring the free-to-play Ranga, so we can get some extra skill points, maybe some Pierce power. maybe an orb change turn 1 because we can do that. It's definitely not a high scoring team. We do not do the damage cap here, but it is an older nuking character and protector, and if you want to just put other damage support characters here, then you certainly can. And if you don't have Velzard, you just don't worry about the stun and bring somebody else. Maybe bring a cheaper support unit to help Shinsha do a bit more damage. That would be extremely viable. But we've got Ranga and Shinsha in slot 1, so we could use the Ranga orb change, or if you have her, you can use the Velzard stun. So I'm giving you options right here. You could do the stun if you have her, or if you don't, use the Ranga convert and get the 6 hand of oranges, and then maybe with protection traits you can get Milim activated. But because we have protection traits, we have Milim. So Milim is an older protector. She doesn't give us 30 points at the start of every turn. She gives us 40 when we use her. So we have an extra 40 points chilling right now. So let's use the debuffs. Let's bring Blanc in. We have her 40 points as well, so we actually have 80 points in reserve. So we'll do this. Perfect. Let's use Milim again. Or not, Milim for the first time, sorry. And then we can use a couple of the other skills. So we can use the Shinsha orange buff. She is skill fused, so it is a bit cheaper. It would normally cost 25 points. That's the only difference. It doesn't really make a difference here. It doesn't really matter here, is what I meant to say. And then we'll use the Ranga Pierce Power and skill point gain on oranges. So we can really kind of make back what we're going to send here. This will get us the EX alt. We're up to 130 skill points. Again, plus Milim is another 40. And then we have still access to Blanc to give us another 20 next turn. And he's still stunned. So we haven't actually taken any damage. But if you didn't have Velzard, you would be taking hits right now. And 130 plus that. We're going to go ahead and attempt to nuke here. So we'll do the attack buff and the EX alt buff, and then we'll bring Blanc in for her massive buff and her... I think we have to use her orange skill first in order to get that. Yeah, so let's do that. And then we can use the Blanc skill. And then, once we activate Milim, we'll get another 40 points, and that will give us enough to use the Pierce debuff with Gobwa. So, boom. And that's pretty much all the buffs that we have active on this team right now. And you would think that with this much power we would do okay damage, but you would be mistaken. 1 million. Definitely not 5 million. We have a lot of support here. Like, I personally expected more out of that Shinsha, but unfortunately, she's just not up for it. So while we did kill in 3 turns, and we didn't take any damage, we're missing a butt ton of points off that weakness damage, because we're not close to 5 million. But if it's what you have, it's what you have, and again, if you don't have Velzard, swap him out for a different support character, and try your best, but that's an option for you. And because I wasn't done shitting on Shinsha enough, we're going to use a different Water Shinsha on a totally different kind of team build. And this is like the sad version of the team. Even though it has Blanc on it, it's fairly sad because this Shinsha is just not very powerful. New Year's Blessing, though. Shion's going to give us oranges, so Blanc will still feast here. And then guaranteed crit, guaranteed synergy. So we brought Fern because of the synergy power. I don't think we have enough points to use her alt skill, but we have Blanc who's going to give us 40, plus buff the oranges, plus the big time damage buff. We've got Temp Sleep Benny Mario to do the physical buff, which Shinsha is physical, and then we've brought Summer Hinata to be an orb stealer, because that's how we're going to ensure that Shinsha can get her EX alt, instead of having it to leave it up to RNG. Which you certainly could, and if you want to bring a different support character for Shinsha, you can. New Year's Milim or something, I guess you could bring, but we're already getting synergy power from Fern, so it's kind of a bit unnecessary. But turn 1, I think we're just going to leave him in the back, and we're just going to send the 2 blues, and we're going to pray that we get 3 orbs for somebody. Doesn't matter who, as long as it's 3 orbs, we're good. So we get 3 Benimarus. Okay, perfect. Let's swap Hinata in. Let's yoink those. And then we can use the orange buff from Blanc to give the 5 oranges a nice boost. And then we can swap Hinata for Shinsha, get her EX alt, and then send this. So we're 150 points, plus the Xion guaranteed crit, guaranteed synergy. If you wanted to nuke on turn 3, you could. I don't know if I suggest doing that after seeing her damage output. I think you should just wait another turn. So let's go ahead and... We could either buff with Blanc now, or we could buff with Frey. Or not Frey, but Fern. Like, it doesn't really matter all that much. But we're going to nuke now. Just to give you guys an example of what happens if you are not maybe fully buffed. Because we are missing the Fern skills. We're missing the synergy power. We're missing the EX alt damage and the alt resistance down. So if you wanted to push to turn 4 or turn 5 to ensure that you can do better damage, that would probably be my recommendation. So let's send these orbs here. Let's take his health down a little bit. We could have sent a few more. And then Shinsha does under 1 million. So I definitely recommend you go to turn 4 or turn 5 and somehow be able to use the other Fern buffs, because you're gonna need it. But at least this kind of gives you the bones and an outline of what to do for the first 3 turns, and then turn 4 and turn 5 would just be building up more skill points and maybe putting more buffs on Shinsha while she's in the back. So those are the 4 teams for Normal Battle 3. Again, I apologize for the first team. It's not very viable, but it is what it is. You either have it or you don't. If you whatever team you use that got you a reasonable score, please, for the love of God, put it down below in the comments for other people to take a look at. I don't know if people are going to be able to run these. But that does it for normal battles. We'll be back, I think, tomorrow, hopefully, depending on my schedule, for boss battle 1 and 2. But that's it for me. Take it easy, and I'll see you all later.